Peter is one of our students, and it's great to see. We have previously seen our students coming back and talking about what they do in real life and putting in context everything they learn on the course into the real work situation. And for us, that's a great reward, because we can see when we are lecturing day by day, in theory, I guess, how it actually applies in the workplace, and it's great. So if you're sitting there as a next student, you think, well, I haven't done a session yet, Tom can give you next year's date for the conference if you want to do a session. Peter's organisation obviously is a construction organisation. Construction is going through a bit of a torrid time at the present time with the recession, but the one thing I think that construction companies can do is provide a quality job in good time and on budget, and I think this is one of the key elements of what Peter's organisation does, and hence we think that will win the day at the end of the recession. Companies like that will definitely come out stronger, there's no two ways about it. And I know Peter's going to talk a little bit about some of the health and safety implications of really one of the larger projects that he's been involved with over the past 18 months, 2.5 years, or maybe even further back when you think about the design stage and such things. So without much more ado, welcome Peter, and we'll look forward to hearing what you've got to say. Thanks very much indeed.
Okay, thanks Tom. How are we doing, guys? My talk may be a little different from what you've had already today. What I'd like to do is maybe give you a bit of information on this project here, as well as some of the challenges we've had, some of the things we've done on there throughout the duration of the job. As it says here, that's who I am. I work for Sir Robert McAlpine. We're a nationwide main contractor, principal contractor. Some of the other things I'm sure you're possibly aware of that we've completed recently. The main stadium for the London 2012 Olympics, for example. That is the first bit of throwaway information. That's the first Olympic stadium that's been built without, indeed I think it's multiple fatalities, which you might say, yeah, that's really good, but in some ways it's really pretty sad, I suppose. But anyway, moving on. What we're going to talk to you about, NISA, National Indoor Sports Arena, and Sir Chris Hoy Velodrome in Glasgow. You'll be aware, obviously, the Velodrome's now been completed in London. What we've done in Glasgow is we were selected as the main contractor by the client, Glasgow City Council. The contract was awarded in September 2009. What the job actually entails, a bit of background on it, is it's a multi-use venue. I say there it's Glasgow 2014 Commonwealth Games. That's just part of the use. It will actually be used for 5-6 events prior to the Games in 2014. I believe there's 5 or 6 already booked in, and they're pretty prestigious events as well. So there's going to be guys working really hard to make it work. You'll see there it is a big grey building, or buildings, so hopefully it doesn't become a big grey elephant, white elephant. I'm sure it won't. There's a lot of people working really hard at it. The job itself, first start date was January 2010, although we were on site, recognising the size of the job. It's 14.5 hectares, which is a fair old area. So obviously reflecting that, we're going to really have what is effectively a village on site. It's a £100 million job, and so a job of that size at various times in the job, you're going to have a lot of guys, a lot of people working on the job. Sometimes we've had 450 and above people actually working on the site, the construction area, as well as maybe 100 staff in the office compounds. So it is a bit of a village going on there. We've got a caterer in there, all that kind of stuff, looking after the welfare of the guys, and obviously staying mindful throughout of that we comply with what we've got to do with the welfare regulations and so on. But some of that has really been quite easy, to be honest with you. Completion date is June 2012. As I say, start was January 2010. We actually got on site earlier, I think it was the end of October, to start putting what was effectively the welfare village in there. So, the deliverables for the job, sports events, local, national, international, national and regional centre of excellence. There'll be offices for the leading sports bodies will be retained in what we call the hub building, which is this bit in the middle. It looks very small, looks like a tiny affair there. However, it's actually, if it was standing alone, it'd be a big office block, you would probably say. But just because of the scale of the rest of the job, it looks like a small affair in the middle there. There's also a very high level training facilities, all that kind of thing involved in there as well. Treatment rooms, all that kind of thing. So that's a couple of the sports bodies. Sport Scotland, Culture, Sport Glasgow, Culture, Sport Glasgow. Service of the community, there's a building round here at the back here, the sports hall. And when you look at the plans, to me, I kind of started calling it a lean-to, because that's actually what it looked like. It looked like something like a cellar you had on the back of your house, but in fact it's got three basketball courts within there, so it is actually a big hall in its own right. The key to the whole thing was multi-purpose, flexible, world-class venue. The indoor sports arena, which is the NISA part of it, it's got 200 metre indoor hydraulic track, seating for 5,000 spectators, but straight away the flexibility of that can go up to 9,000. We've got the fire licence for, I think it's around about 9,000. So there'll be things like World Championship boxing, all that kind of thing in there. Other sorts of sports, badminton and the like. The hydraulic track, the key's in the name there. Hydraulic, that can be lowered flat, so what you have is one big flat area with all this potential and flexibility for the seating. There's telescopic seating, some of it can be moved, repositioned, different areas. It can be moved into the sports hall, all that kind of stuff. We actually got a demonstration on how that goes, and one of the concerns I had straight away was, if you see these telescopic units, they're about 4.5 metres high, but they're not really all that deep, if you like. And you look at it, and I'm sure you guys as safety professionals would look at it and say, well, that doesn't look good, that's going to fall over. But turns out that it's obviously it's a detailed design, and it is a very safe system. They actually transport it around on I think they're called aerodecks, which are pretty wide. They're about 3 metres wide. So this is how they take the weight from these things and they kind of glide them about. That's pretty impressive. I said the 200 metre indoor track. The Velodrome itself, which is the cycling, the Sir Chris Hoy Velodrome, it's 250 metre track, 2,000 seats, but that will increase to 4,000 during the games. Once again, they looked at the flexibility of that area, and there'll be street sports, BMX biking, that sort of thing going on within that area as well. The community facility of it, obviously the sports halls, the dance and fitness studios, floodlight external football pitches. So, as I say, where we are right now, I mean, some of that work, a lot of that work is well on. It really is. The job's going very well. That's just like kind of, in old money, I still call it an artist's impression. Anybody else see that? So it's computer generated image, I suppose. But it gives you some sort of idea, the sort of scale. I mean, likes of the arena there, you comfortably fit a football pitch, full-size football pitch, in the actual lower level of it. And that's not even considering the terrace units for the seating and so on. So it's pretty impressive. That's just an indoor idea of this is in the arena. These are permanent seating here, and that's the telescopic seating that I'm talking about. So this gives you an idea how it works. And obviously the velodrome with people going round very, very quickly. I'm not sure that they actually have as many cyclists on the track at that kind of individual time. I'm not sure that was fully thought through, but it gives a good impression anyway. We've got a huge amount of visitors to the job from different bodies and so on. People, the only guy that's probably not been there is our leader of our Scottish Parliament, Mr. Salmond. So that's maybe not always a bad thing. That's fine. I'm sure he has his fans. Apparently the best seat in the house is this one. We had one visitor, it's a young girl, Charlene Joyner, and she won a silver medal in the Delhi Commonwealth Games for the cycling. And she assured me that the best seat in the house is just about there, because you have people cycling around there and they'll be about 6 metres away from you, going straight at you at 60 miles an hour. And I thought, right, okay, well, it depends what your perception of best seat is, I suppose. So, in the early stages, the first 2 months when we landed, it was minus 15 degrees at 8 o'clock in the morning of the 4th of January 2010. So, straight away, there's a few challenges there. So we're out there with the salt and the grit and all that kind of stuff, keeping the pathways in the compound clear. The first 2 months was really ground improvement, compaction, piling, dynamic compaction, vibro piling, all that kind of stuff. The first 2 months of the job, if you can imagine, was defined by every 7 seconds this thump. And that's because dynamic compaction, you know, I mean, it sounds pretty kind of glamorous, but in fact what it is a crane lifting a 7-ton lump of metal and dropping it, and doing that every 7 seconds. So it's not really very glamorous at all. However, it's amazing how you do get used to that sort of thing. From the early stages, more on a safety kind of point of view now, with a real collaborative approach to planning, method statement review, identification of risks, and really utilise the staff that were available. A lot of really experienced engineers, but engineers that were maybe more used to working on different types of the construction industry, different parts of the job, if you like, maybe more used to internal trades and things like that. So these guys who were maybe package managers for external work, they maybe didn't have the depth of experience that some other guys on the project did have. So they were encouraged right from the start to utilise those skills, talk to the works managers, and really capitalise on the knowledge that was within the organisation, particularly on that project. Also, every subcontractor who was tendering for work had to complete a competence questionnaire, specific questions. Some of them had a real, you got to see a few things there. Some of them would have you would see a kind of almost like a reluctance to provide you with just the information you're looking for. You know, it'll be like, yeah, I know you want to know about this and that, but here's our entire management system again. You know, and it's, you get this, literally you're getting 3 folders that depth, you know, and you say, well look, babe, I've not got time to look through your 300 pages of your health and safety policy to find out that one snippet of information that we asked you for. You tell me. So, however, the plus side of it was that you were comfortable right at the very start that the guys who were going forward and would be assessed as suitable to do that subcontracting work, you had a really good foundation for that. Oh, there's a wee pun there. And it was important as well that selection, even in this current environment, that you weren't just, and I'm sure it's happening in many parts of the industries, all industries, that price is just completely overtaking everything, and it's just everything's got to be done to that price. However, the fact that we engaged the appropriate people, I reviewed every single tender health and safety section for that project, because that's what I do. So that was the right thing to do, and I think it's probably in the long run that type of thing may well have saved us money, because we had experienced people with, like somebody, community benefits officer, reviewing what the subcontractor was going to do in that sort of respect, environmental issues, that sort of thing. So we really did capitalise on the experience and abilities that we had on the project, and obviously in the wider McAlpine sort of family, if you like. Team approach throughout the job, and utilise that expertise within the site team and beyond. The communication, I don't think it's just construction, communication is key to every successful job. If you're talking, if you're sharing that information, openness, keeping good records, learning from past projects, don't make the same mistake that somebody made in a job 2 years ago in Edinburgh. Let's learn from it. What did you do? Ask the questions, all that kind of good stuff. Workforce engagement. I think in the construction industry we've been very guilty at times of just telling guys what they need to do. Have you read your method statement? Do you understand it? Yeah, right, that's good. Is it signed? Yeah, yeah. But what do you think? You know, so we started asking the guys themselves, look, well, what do you think? You worked, have you seen a better way to do that? So we really pushed on. I'll talk a wee bit more about that in a moment. Part of that workforce engagement was the guys working in the site. We would meet every couple of weeks, and the guys actually set targets, set goals for them at the consultation meetings, and we also had an opportunity for them to voice any concerns or things that they thought we should be doing better, or things that they thought weren't right. And this was like kind of what you said, what we did. So this is, well, only in my mind, the sexy bit, but that's just me. Now, cranes. When I was a young boy, I loved cranes. Now that I'm not a young boy, I still love cranes. So I don't know if anybody else is the same, but some of these bad boys here, that is a real business. 2 1,400-ton crawler cranes. As I say, big lifts, need big cranes. Obviously assembled on site. The competency of these guys is just way up there. It really is fantastic. We needed them. They were used for tandem lifts. I'll show you a wee bit about that in a moment. You see there super lift ballasts on the back end here. These machines, they were lifting, well, taking its share of a 300-ton lift at 24, 25 metres out from the crane. So I mean, it just shows you what they can do, you know. Obviously, maybe in some ways, I'm saying there detailed planning methodology, absolutely, but maybe in some ways that sort of operation, using that sort of equipment, almost demands it. So maybe that's stating the obvious. That's just an example of some of the stuff we're lifting there. That was the construction of the 3D trusses. There's 2 of these in each of the 2 in the arena, 2 in the Velodrome, and that's effectively what supports the roof system and all the steel that goes with it. They're pretty well massive. 92 metre span is this bow, we call it, underneath. Just to give you a wee idea of the scale, you see the hook here? That's it there, coupler. So it's basically the size of the guy's torso. So it's pretty big stuff. Structural steel frame in the arena and Velodrome. The hub is concrete in situ. Obviously detailed lifting plans. I was reviewing them. The package engineer and section engineer was reviewing them as well. However, the company that we engaged to carry out the steel erection, highly competent, fantastic, kind of grade A company really, to be honest. So the spec of the plant that was being used is quite apparent from some of the photographs. But the 3D roof trusses, they were formed at a low level. So really what we had there, that's one side of it there. You see the other crane in the background. Sorry, the other crane about this side. They were formed and constructed 2 boxes. The box section part there was constructed in 2 parts. What we did was, once they were constructed, in tandem to that, the construction of the bow. So what would then happen was they would be lifted by each of the 1,400-ton cranes, maybe only less than the height of the ceiling here. They were then bolted together, welded, all that stuff, then lifted up, over, lowered onto the bow, connected, bolted up, and then lifted. The whole lot was lifted, roughly 300 tons, lifted onto the top of the columns. So final connection was obviously made in the air from MUPS. That's just a kind of example. I always think it does actually look almost like a boat, but you can see, because that's what we called it, we were launching them, because we really were. 2 box sections, a 92 metre span bow. 92 metres is only 10 metres short of the length of a professional football pitch. I think they're 105 metres, something like that. So not much short, 13 metres short of it. And that's obviously the width of each of the areas. We see a lad here waiting there. Somebody cracked a joke about it, the first one that went up. You know, there's loads of people in, and you know, just to try and watch this and see it happening. One of the guys cracked a joke and said, yeah, can I just imagine, you know, yeah, that's me bolted up, I'm bolted up, I'm bolted up. God, I'm miles out here, you know, so obviously, thankfully, nothing like that happened. I did receive a phone call from Glasgow City Council, and it was before the first lift was getting done, and they said, "Joe, I'd really like to come in and see this getting done. You know, it sounds really interesting." I said, "Well, it will be interesting. Yeah, it will be, without a doubt." So the chap says, "Well, I wonder if you could do a favour. My lunch is like 12:30 till 1:30. Could you arrange it, you know, for maybe either just before lunch or after?" I was like, "Okay." It's a day and a half, you know, for the full process, sort of thing, you know. And obviously, these units were remaining suspended overnight and all that kind of thing for the final connection. So I thought it was quite funny. But I was, as I say, exemplary organisation, planning and control, but maybe the whole nature of it made that was an obvious or a given. So there's just another couple of pictures. There, maybe that one there gives you just a couple of good different perspectives there, but maybe that one gives you the best idea just how wide a unit we're actually talking about. And of course, it wouldn't be Scotland without the weather. We actually had 11 weeks in 2010 where snow. 11 weeks, because that was obviously at the front end, and then at the tail end another 5 weeks at the back end. But we overcame it. We kept the paths clear. We had concrete hard stands to get us from the compound into the job. Easy to clear every day. Guys in 6 o'clock in the morning, scraping them off, salting them so the guys had safe access up into the job. Space heaters and fire retardant curtains I should have put in there. Utilised inside the hub, and that allowed us, even though it was minus 15 outside. I mean, one of the days was all sorts of records, obviously, but certainly one of the days it was still minus 11 at 12:30 in the afternoon. It was still minus 11. It was kind of unusual, maybe, where we're normally used to snow turning to slush. It was that wasn't happening, because there was never any point over. I think it was about a 6-week period towards the end of 2010. There was never any point where the temperature actually went above zero, so there was no thaw at any time. So really, what you had was any snow that was left lying, it was actually started looking like sand. It was starting to look like a beach. So, it certainly didn't feel like a beach, that's for sure. But in those conditions, we still let us, with the curtains, with space heaters, allowed guys to continue building, you know, installing block work and so on. It's 25,500 square metres of block work in the job, so it was important we kept that work going. And that work got done safely. It was good. Guys stripped down, shirt sleeves, stuff like that, and it's -15 outside. You see there, you probably can't really see it, but the Christmas tree up here, and that was the MD seen Spinal Tap, yeah, right. The Stonehenge thing, I don't know if anybody's seen it. It was supposed to be, this huge affair gets lowered down. It turns out it's kind of about that size, So, well, that's more or less with a real Spinal Tap moment. It was ordered in metres, but it was delivered in feet. So we were expecting this 6-metre Christmas tree. Yeah, look at this. Yeah, brilliant. Oh God, it's there. So that was quite funny. Project director saw the funny side eventually. Coordination in all workplaces, but I would say very, very much so in construction. That's just a wee example of high-level works with daily coordination meetings. That's in the arena. With daily coordination meetings for both the NISA and the Velodrome every day. The arena one at 3:30, the Velodrome meeting at 4 o'clock. And that was just because with different subcontractors, different activity work going on in there. These ducts here, they're 2.7 metres diameter, so pretty big. So obviously a lot of people working in that area. So you've got to coordinate it. You've got to ensure that everything's there, everything's in place. It's going to keep the guys safe when they're carrying out that work. I mean, it does look a bit kind of War of the Worlds sort of thing, but there's a lot of work. That's guys working at about 18 metres up in the air. Over the installation and within the two areas, plus the work from small cherry pickers and the like, small scissor lifts, up until the end of March. So obviously there's been a lot more since then, albeit this work is all completed now. We'd completed 55,000 man hours with guys working at height in machines. So that was quite something. But we're only able to do that because we involved everybody, all operation stakeholders, as I say there. Some of the work's quite complex, but it was all planned, and we made sure that everybody knew not only what they were doing, but what everybody else was doing. My own biggest concern with the whole part of that operation, or that part of the operation, was complacency. Because I saw, could these guys in these big scissor lifts, cherry pickers and the like, could they get used to working, with another 15 machines in the one area? They're going to get used to it. So I'm sure you guys are aware that you can stop seeing the hazards if you like. So that was my biggest. So, but we kept on top of it every morning. Everybody would get their safety brief, so they knew what they were doing, and there was that clarity and that openness, and make sure everybody knows what each other are doing. We also had safe men at ground level, obviously not standing underneath the units, but they were trained to bring machines down from the ground controls, which obviously recognising one of the major issues is entrapment from these machines. Many of the machines were also fitted with additional safety devices, wires across the controls and such like. So, also the weekly safety meeting, coordination meeting, and that still goes on throughout the duration of the project. Has done from week one, and it will go until the end of the job. Right from the first day, we encourage near-miss reporting. It's something that I think we've got over to the guys, that we'll never look to blame anyone, because even if it's something that you've done that's not correct, it's not been the right thing to do, and there's been a near miss, we're not going to seek to blame you, because we want to learn from it without that one there, that hard knock. What I would say is there's been a couple of mentions of induction. Craig mentioned it as well, I think. And I think at the NISA and Velodrome, we've been fortunate. The works manager a chap called Brian Lennox. Brian's McAlpine's senior works manager in the Scotland region, and if I couldn't begin to tell you the number of people have approached me and said that is the best site induction I've ever had. That is real, you know, which is a fantastic compliment to Brian. Brian's a joiner to trade, and when you see him going about his stuff, you know, it's no airs or graces, you know, without a doubt. He gives it to the guys straight, but he hits all the buttons. He'll explain to me all about the rules, what we've got to do, what we can't do, but he'll also make sure the guys understand that they've got their part to play. It's not just going to happen okay just because we've got these rules and the like, that they've got their part to play as well, and it really is top notch. So I've frequently thanked Brian for his contribution there. I would reckon he has done 95% of the inductions on the site. The other 5% have been carried out by his deputy, a young lad who's seen to be offering great things to McAlpine. And it's obviously been done to a very, very high standard. Another one again, it's been a recurring feature right throughout, is share the learning. We have safety briefs every fortnight, as well as the weekly coordination meetings where the management come together. We discuss things like sharing for things like safety alerts from the industry, any incidents we've had, anything like. But we'll do it all in an environment where there's no a blame culture. And I think that's really, really important. In a wider context, we'll send out stuff like that to the canteen, flyers on the tables, all that kind of thing. And I think that goes along to help the whole environment. We've actually had, as a job that's identified as of, I think the words are specific public interest, we've actually had 8 visits from the HSE. So all planned visits, but and they've gone with one last Monday, week past Monday, I think. And it went really well. She's very complimentary about the stuff that we were doing, and that's good, you know, and it's good to feed that back to the guys. But one thing I thought was particularly pleasing from a safety point of view was that the guys, when she's speaking to the guys out there, actually out there doing the job, she was impressed with the responses, but not only that, just the whole atmosphere on the job, which is really, I think it's a fantastic compliment for a lot of guys who are trying really hard in a job to make it, to make a job safe and go well. So that was really encouraging. So how do we reduce the hazards? I'll just run through a few kind of things that we've done over the piece and still continue to do. Exclusion zones, obviously that was of paramount importance. We were doing all that high level work from scissor lifts and cherry pickers within the arena and the Velodrome. But it continues in all areas, the cladding, the actual envelope of the building, there's huge outriggers as well and so on. So that's been focused throughout the project duration. Control of excavation works with permit systems, the concrete and superstructure, sub and superstructure as well. We actually made a kind of overreaching exclusion zone whereby it was only the permit holders and authorised persons could go in to the area where the foundations were being, the excavations were getting done and the original concrete was done. Steel erection, obviously that goes without saying, as well as roof formation, secondary steel. And I already mentioned the high level installations, gantries, ductwork, vents, all the areas excluded below, and somebody, the watcher, making sure that was maintained. And really, in general, was for all work at height. Try to reduce manual handling to as great an extent as we could. Lifting aids used throughout the job. Reducing musculoskeletal injuries. Easy for me to say. It wasn't always easy for me to say. But actually, in many ways, the increased productivity was actually a wee welcome bonus there. Because sometimes they think, oh, come on guys, just lift the thing. That doesn't work anymore. It's not the right thing to do. The right thing to do is make the job safe and make the lifting safe. And these things, guys were putting in curbs, and you want to see the rate they're laying in curbs, because they're using this top kit, cracking gear, fantastic. Work at height, obviously. Remove the need. What we're doing there, guys were assembling pretty substantial units before they were lifted onto the top of the hub area as a service area. All your air handling units, all that kind of stuff. The chap we had, the crane coordinator, we had a dedicated crane coordinator just because of the activity, the amount of lifts and so on. And he reckoned there was 700 tonnes of equipment on the hub roof. So that kind of bore out the size of the slab that was up there. So, because someone was questioned that at the time when it was getting poured. Obviously, reducing the need to work as far as reasonably practicable. So, even down to when we were assembling the trusses, we excavated out pockets at the bottom there, and okay, there's still work at height required. You see the boy here in his wee cherry picker. But what it did do, it let us lower it by maybe 1.5 metres. So it all helps. Housekeeping, it's a kind of boring one, isn't it? But hey, slips, trips and falls, we all know the kind of stats with that. So with a focus on that, we've had a focus on that throughout the job. You see some areas there, and that's the way we try to keep areas. Obviously, at times you go in, you go, right, look at that, and you're away and you're seeing somebody, but that's just part of the job, part of the process. We try to encourage the guys and make sure it's the forefront of their activities. With some young lads, young persons, there's a couple of girls as well started, and they've actually done very well. So this was taken on as part of Glasgow East Regeneration Association, GERA. So yeah, some successes, some not so, unfortunately. However, the reason I stuck that in there was because that was the reality of the kind of vulnerable or young persons. You were seeing it firsthand in action, that really, if you let these guys go out and go on, they'd have been out there hurting themselves, without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, because their inexperience was just exhuming from every area, honestly. They would just, if they needed to get from here to there, but there's somebody lifting one of these roof trusses, so I want to go there, so I'm going that way. So a lot of training, a lack of understanding of hazards, and in some respects it was alarming. But we kept them safe. We had weekly talks on specific things. I would give them talks every week. I wouldn't call it a toolbox talk. It was more a real kind of safety briefing, if you like. Because a toolbox talk to me indicates a refresher for things that somebody already knows, but just a wee reminder. Well, this wasn't a reminder because the guys didn't have a clue in the first place. So it was real training. Here's how you go about this, guys, and here's why. Don't just tell them to do something, let them know why they need to do it that way. So that went quite kind of well. Obviously we've had that in-house training, but obviously with accredited organisations as well. And some of the boys, as I say, are doing really well. I've taken them periodically, there's a dozen of them, and I've taken them on my inspections at different times and let them help me and let them tell me what they think's right and what they think should be better. So, and that's been good. That's worked really well. I mentioned communication before, consultation. What we do is we've got these boards, what you said, what we did. That communication, it's clear, it's effective. we're putting ourselves on the line there because we're putting up, the guys are talking to us at the consultation meeting, they're saying, right, we don't think that path's good enough, we'll look at it. Right, okay, guys have got a point, it needs to be a bit wider, we'll fix it. And then we've maybe putting up there, sorted, path widened, blah, 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 barriers readjusted, whatever it was. That communication's not just been between our management and the subcontractor management, we make sure it's in a wider context. And the whole consultation sort of process that we have with the workforce, that's a part of that. You see here, we also operate a traffic light system. That's for those goals. They were the guys actually on the job. It was them who set those goals. So we thought that gives them, that you're engaging with them and giving them that responsibility. We've also rolled out a workforce engagement workshop. We've had 300 guys through that process on our site alone now. Focus is changing in safety attitude, behaviour and culture. And the target obviously is to achieve injury-free projects. Just to summarise, this is just a couple of pictures of where we are. These are reasonably recent pictures. Gives you an idea of where we are. It's a small machine there, one of these sort of spiders, but it's final cleaning that's getting done at the higher areas. That's just a wee picture. Obviously the snow's back last week. But it gives you some sort of sense of scale with the job. So that's me. Hopefully that's of interest to you there. Any questions or?